The second step is the construction. I'll show you some methods on how to construct this system using the materials we have collected earlier. Of course, it really depends on what materials you were able to collect and the size and scope of this project. So I'll give you some examples, but feel free to use your own inspiration and your own materials to create your own system. Because it's homemade permaculture, I'll do most of my construction in here, my living room, because it should be a system which can be built in a household. First we needed to make the pieces of wood for the side construction, which all need to be on the same length. There were 3 pieces of wood I needed, all of around 80 centimeters. After I finished them, I sanded them off with a little file. This was the little piece which would go across and connect them. So I'm here drawing on what I need to cut off. Using a screwdriver I will try to pry it out, the little piece. Just making sure it fits well. Now I need 8 smaller pieces to connect the corners, with all approximately the same length. It's a very quick method to do this. Here I want to take the label off this bottle. I need to make it sit in water for quite a while, so I first filled it with water so it stays under easier. These are the pieces of wood I found in a container outside. You can see the water damage on it. I made a quick drawing on how I wanted to build it. It's going to be with a slanted side, so I'll be able to use the wood more efficiently and have less waste material. I'll start by cutting this piece of wood exactly in half. One will be the bottom plate and the other side will be cut into for 2 side plates. Here I'm taking the measurements for the height of the sides, and I'm using another piece of plank to draw a straight line. The piece of wood is attached securely to the table. That's also the reason why the camera is a bit jittery. But the sides are very, well, came out quite nice. I'm measuring the sides on the next piece of wood for the 2 side panels at the front and the back of the box. Here I'm finishing attaching all the panels to the bottom with some small nails I pulled out of some wood I got from the construction container. When the label has been sitting in some water, I use a knife to remove it with the small layer of glue underneath it. This is where I want to place it, so I need to make 2 little brackets to hold it in place. And it will function as a water reservoir for the permaculture system. I use the bottle to measure the decide on how big the bracket will need to be. It's the first bracket done. I remove the label which was still on it and measure out a similar one next to it. Always trying to limit the amount of waste material I'm creating. Filing the sides a bit. And they can be attached to the upper side of the system, so the water can be distributed downwards. I'm adding the last of the nails to make it secured even better. And now it's time for the sealing material. I used an old garbage bag which I found and was ripped into two, but one part was big enough and still sealed, so I could use it to hold the soil and keep the moisture inside. Now the bottle sits quite securely there, so that's nice. There are multiple ways of getting your soil for this project. A good one is asking around to people with gardens. For example, using a system like Nextdoor to ask for it. If you're collecting from a garden, it's good to use bare soil with no plants on it, because it will probably be more fertile instead of getting it out of a forest or around trees. Of course, it is possible to buy it at a gardening store, but most often there are ways to get it for free. What you can see here is one of the permaculture systems I'm building. And I'm using this glass bottle here at the top as my water reservoir. And I'm going to try and create a very constant stream of water entering this system. The best way I have found to do this is using a simple, very small ball pin. And instead of just poking it into the bottle to create a very small hole, it's much better to heat it up first and then just press it in. Because there's a lot less risk of tearing the bottle. This is also a very good way to control the size. Because if the hole is emitting too much water, letting too much water through, then it's also very easy with the hot pin to melt the plastic a bit closer to each other, and thereby closing the hole. So first you start by heating up the pin. You see it starts to glow. I'm making 3 holes in the middle. As you can see, the water comes out quite nicely. And then I'll add a little hole at the top to be able to add the water. Later on I make it a bit bigger and I use a scalpel to cut it out more neatly. As you can see, the camera has some problem focusing here. But those are, yeah, that's the last hole. Here I'm making my aerobe composting system. I drew a circle with the inner radius of the tube I'm going to be using, and I'm going to saw it out and then jam it in there, so the bottom will be sealed. The top can be easily closed off with a piece of plastic I had left over and a rubber band to seal it airtight, but it doesn't need to be watertight or particularly strong. And it's also nice to be able to easily get it off and throw something away in it without having to break a hard seal. When the round piece of wood is done, this fits into the bottom of the tube. and with a hammer it's hammered in there. So it creates a tight seal. After checking that it fits, I use a knife to cut off the extended part of the lid, so it's a smooth fit, sanding it down again and then attaching it back into the tube. Well, a little piece of wood came off. Well, it's not the end. I'll attach it again with a little nail.
Thank you for watching this video on homemade permaculture. I hope this can serve as inspiration and a guide for you to create your own system, and so reduce your waste and be able to produce a part of your own essentials. Thank you very much.